There's a moment in every childhood where we first encounter something that changes everything. For millions of us, that moment came on a spring morning in Pallet Town, when a 10-year-old boy with dreams bigger than the sky itself began a journey that would span decades. But what if that journey never really happened? What if everything we've watched, every battle, every friendship, every triumph and heartbreak, exists only in the fractured mind of a child who never woke up? Tonight, we're going to explore one of the most haunting theories in animation history. A theory that transforms a beloved adventure into something far darker. A theory that asks us to reconsider every smile, every victory, every impossible moment we've witnessed over 25 years of storytelling. This is the story of Ash Ketchum's Coma, and once you see the evidence, you may never watch the same way again. So settle in, get comfortable, because we're about to take a deep dive into the hidden tragedy beneath the surface of the Pokémon world. Let's begin at the very beginning with a boy and his bicycle and a storm that changed everything. The incident happens in the very first episode. Ash Ketchum, freshly 10 years old, has just received his starter Pokémon from Professor Oak. Not the Squirtle, Bulbasaur, or Charmander he dreamed of, but a defiant, aggressive Pikachu who refuses to enter its Pokeball and shows nothing but contempt for its new trainer. Within hours of beginning his journey, Ash finds himself in a desperate situation. A flock of Spearow, enraged by his clumsy attempt to catch one, descends upon him in a murderous swarm. In his panic, Ash does something that will echo through everything that follows. He steals a bicycle, not borrows, steals. The bike belongs to a girl named Misty, and Ash takes it without permission, pedaling frantically through the forest with Pikachu clutched in his arms and dozens of razor-beaked birds screaming behind him. The bicycle, we'll come to understand, is more important than it first appears. It represents the last moment of consequence in Ash's real life. What happens next is seared into the memory of anyone who watched that first episode. Ash reaches a waterfall. The Spearow are closing in. Pikachu, weakened and terrified, lies helpless in Ash's arms. And in that moment, Ash makes a choice that defines everything we think we know about his character. He shields Pikachu with his own body. He tells his Pokémon that he'll protect it, even if it means taking the full fury of the flock himself. It's a beautiful moment, a heroic moment, the moment where Ash proves he has the heart of a true Pokémon trainer. And then the lightning strikes. The storm that has been building throughout the chase finally breaks. A massive bolt of lightning, drawn by Pikachu's electric nature, crashes down from the sky. Troy, the energy is immense, far beyond anything a normal electrical discharge should produce. Pikachu channels this power, amplified by its own abilities. It is, and releases it in a devastating shockwave that sends the Spearow fleeing and lights up the entire forest. Ash is at the center of that blast. A 10-year-old child, soaking wet, standing in a puddle of water, holding a living lightning rod as millions of volts surge through both of them. The camera shows us the explosion of light. It shows us Ash's body rigid with the current. It shows us the aftermath, with Ash collapsed on the ground, smoke rising from his clothes, barely conscious. And then, In the sky above, Ash sees something impossible, a golden bird, radiant and magnificent, flying through the clearing storm. Ho-Oh, a legendary Pokémon that most trainers never glimpse in their entire lives. A creature of myth and wonder appearing to a boy who has been a trainer for less than a day. This is where the Coma begins. This is the moment where Ash Ketchum's real journey ends and his dream journey begins. Everything that follows, every region explored, every gym badge earned, every friend made and rival faced, exists only in the electrical storm of a damaged brain trying to make sense of trauma. The evidence for this theory isn't hidden. It's woven into every episode, every season, every impossible moment that we've accepted because we thought we were watching a children's cartoon. But when you look closer, when you examine the patterns and the symbolism and the things that make no sense in any other context, a different story emerges. A story about a boy trapped in his own mind, living out the adventure he never got to have. Let's start with the most obvious question. Why doesn't Ash age? In the real world, time passes. Children grow. Bodies change. A 10-year-old comes 11, then 12, then a teenager, then an adult. This is fundamental to human existence. Yet, Ash Ketchum has been 10 years old for over 25 years of our time. He's traveled through 8 regions, participated in countless battles, formed deep relationships, experienced profound losses, and yet his body remains frozen at the exact age he was when the lightning struck. The show occasionally acknowledges the passage of time. Characters mention birthdays, seasons change, events are referenced as happening in the past. But Ash never ages. His body never develops. He remains perpetually on the cusp of adolescence, forever 10, forever at the exact moment when his real life ended. In a coma, time becomes meaningless. The brain, deprived of external stimuli, creates its own sense of duration. Minutes can feel like hours. Hours can feel like minutes. Years can pass in the outside world while the dreaming mind experiences only days. Ash's perception of time is distorted because he's not experiencing real time. He's experiencing dream time, where the rules of physics and biology don't apply. But it's not just that Ash doesn't age. Nobody ages. Misty, who joins Ash in those first episodes, remains perpetually young. Brock, who should be well into adulthood by now, looks exactly as he did when we first met him. Even Ash's mother, who we see periodically throughout the series, never shows signs of aging. No gray hair, no wrinkles, no change whatsoever. This makes sense if we understand that these people aren't real. They're constructs of Ash's comatose mind, frozen at the moment he last saw them. His mother appears as she was that morning when she sent him off on his journey. Misty appears as she was when he stole her bike. Brock appears as he was when they first met. They can't age because they're not actually experiencing time. They're memories, given form and voice in Ash's dream world. The same applies to his Pokémon. Pikachu, who should have evolved into Raichu long ago, given the amount of experience and battles it's been through, remains a Pikachu. Not because it doesn't want to evolve, though the show offers that explanation, but because Ash's mind can't imagine it any other way. Pikachu was a Pikachu when the lightning struck. In Ash's fractured memory, Pikachu will always be a Pikachu. Now, let's talk about the nature of Ash's journey itself, because this is where the theory becomes truly haunting. Every region Ash visits follows the same basic pattern. He arrives in a new place, full of wonder and possibility. He meets new friends who join him on his journey. He challenges gym leaders, collects badges, and works toward competing in the regional Pokémon League. He faces a rival who pushes him to be better. He encounters Team Rocket, who provide comic relief and occasional genuine threat. He has adventures, makes memories, and grows as a trainer. And then, just when he's on the verge of achieving his ultimate goal, just when he's about to become a Pokémon master, something happens. He loses. He falls short. The dream resets, and he moves on to a new region to start the cycle again. This is the pattern of a mind trying to process trauma. The Coma dream gives Ash what he wants most, a grand adventure, but it can never let him achieve his ultimate goal, because achieving that goal would mean the dream is over. And if the dream is over, Ash would have to wake up. His subconscious knows, on some level, that waking up means confronting the reality of what happened to him. So, the dream continues, region after region, always promising fulfillment, but never quite delivering it. Think about how Ash loses. In the Indigo League, his first major tournament, he makes it to the top 16 before losing to a trainer named Richie. The loss is devastating, but Ash accepts it with grace and moves on. In the Johto League, he makes it to the quarterfinals before losing to Harrison. In Hoenn, he reaches the semifinals before losing to Tyson. In Sinnoh, he makes it all the way to the finals before losing to Tobias, a trainer who uses legendary Pokémon. Each time, Ash gets closer. Each time, the dream allows him to progress further. But each time, at the crucial moment, he falls short. And each time, instead of the crushing disappointment that such losses should bring, Ash bounces back almost immediately. He's sad for an episode, maybe two, and then he's ready for the next adventure. This isn't how real people process failure, especially not failures of this magnitude. This is how a dreaming mind processes setbacks, smoothing over the pain and moving quickly to the next comforting scenario. The regions themselves are telling. Each new region Ash visits is more fantastical than the last. Kanto, where his journey begins, is relatively grounded. The Pokémon are recognizable animals with special abilities. The cities and towns feel like places that could exist. But as the series progresses, as Ash's coma deepens, the regions become increasingly surreal. Johto introduces legendary Pokémon as central figures in the plot. Hoenn brings in ancient civilizations and Pokémon with godlike powers. Sinnoh introduces the concept of Pokémon that created the universe itself. Unova, Kalos, Alola, Galar, each region pushes further into fantasy, introducing concepts and creatures that strain credibility even within the show's own logic. This is the progression of a coma dream. At first, the mind tries to maintain some connection to reality, creating scenarios that feel plausible. But as time passes, as the brain damage deepens, or the mind retreats further from consciousness, the dreams become more abstract, more symbolic, more divorced from anything resembling the real world. Ash's journey isn't becoming more fantastical because the Pokémon world is expanding. It's becoming more fantastical because Ash's grip on reality is slipping. Let's examine the people in Ash's life because they reveal something crucial about the nature of his coma dream. Misty is the first person Ash meets after the lightning strike. She's angry with him for destroying her bike, and she follows him initially to get compensation. But over time, she becomes one of his closest friends. She travels with him through Kanto and Johto, supporting him, challenging him, and occasionally showing hints of deeper feelings. And then, suddenly, she leaves. She returns to her gym in Cerulean City, and while Ash visits her occasionally, she's no longer a central part of his journey. Brock follows a similar pattern. He joins Ash early in the Kanto journey, becomes a steadfast companion, and then eventually departs to pursue his own dreams. May, Max, Dawn, Iris, Silent, Serena, Clement, Bonnie, Lily, Kiawe, Lana, Mallow, Sophocles, Go, Chloe, each of Ash's companions follows the same arc. They appear, they travel with him for a time, they form deep bonds, and then they leave. In the real world, this would be heartbreaking. Imagine forming friendships so close that you trust these people with your life, sharing experiences that forge unbreakable bonds, and then having them simply walk away. Ash should be devastated each time a companion leaves. He should struggle with abandonment issues. He should be hesitant to form new friendships, knowing they'll inevitably end. But he isn't. Each time a companion leaves, Ash is sad for a moment, and then he moves on. He meets new people, forms new bonds just as deep as the old ones, and the cycle continues. This isn't realistic human behavior. This is how a comatose mind processes the people who visit the hospital room. Think about it. Ash is lying in a hospital bed, unresponsive. His mother visits regularly, sitting beside him, talking to him, hoping for any sign of consciousness. His friends from Pallet Town visit when they can. Nurses and doctors come and go, checking his vitals, adjusting his medications, speaking in soft voices about his condition. All of these people, all of these presences, filter into Ash's coma dream as companions on his journey. Misty might represent a nurse who was particularly kind to him in the early days of his coma. Brock might represent a doctor who checked on him regularly. Each companion represents someone who spent time in Ash's presence, their voices and touches penetrating the veil of unconsciousness and being transformed by his dreaming mind into fellow travelers on his impossible journey. When these people stop visiting, when they move on to other patients or other responsibilities, they disappear from Ash's dream. He doesn't experience this as abandonment because, on some level, he understands that these aren't real relationships. They're echoes of real presences. And when the presences fade, so do the echoes. His mother is the constant. She appears throughout the series, always supportive, always loving, always waiting for him in Pallet Town. This is because she's the one person who never leaves his bedside. She's there every day, talking to him, touching his hand, telling him about her day and encouraging him to wake up. Her presence is so constant, so unwavering, that even in his deepest dreams, Ash can feel her there. Now, let's talk about Team Rocket, because they're perhaps the most revealing element of the entire Coma theory. Jesse, James, and Meowth are Ash's most persistent antagonists. They appear in nearly every episode, attempting to steal Pikachu and other Pokémon, only to be defeated and sent blasting off into the sky. They're comedic villains, more annoying than threatening, and their schemes are so consistently unsuccessful that they border on the absurd. In any realistic scenario, Team Rocket would have given up long ago. They've been defeated hundreds, possibly thousands of times. They've wasted years of their lives and countless resources pursuing a single Pikachu with nothing to show for it but injuries and humiliation. No rational person would continue this pattern. No criminal organization would tolerate such spectacular, consistent failure. But Team Rocket isn't bound by rationality. They're not real people making real choices. They're manifestations of Ash's guilt. Remember, Ash's journey began with a theft. He stole Misty's bike. This was his first act as a Pokémon trainer, and it was morally wrong. He took something that didn't belong to him, destroyed it, and never properly made amends. In the real world, this guilt would have been a small thing, easily resolved with an apology and compensation. But in a coma dream, where the mind processes and reprocesses the same events endlessly, this guilt becomes magnified. Team Rocket represents the consequences Ash fears for his theft. They're thieves, just like he was. They're constantly trying to steal Pokémon, just like he stole the bike. And they're constantly punished for their attempts, sent flying through the air in explosions of light and sound, just like Ash was sent flying by the lightning strike. But here's the crucial detail. Team Rocket never succeeds, and they never give up. They can't succeed because if they did, if they actually stole Pikachu and got away with it, Ash would have to confront the reality that theft has consequences. And they can't give up because Ash's guilt never goes away. It's a constant presence in his subconscious, manifesting as these three persistent, ultimately harmless antagonists who provide a safe outlet for his moral anxiety. Notice also that Team Rocket, despite being villains, are never truly evil. They have sympathetic backstories. They show kindness to Pokémon. They occasionally help Ash when the situation demands it. They're not monsters. They're flawed people making bad choices, just like Ash made a bad choice when he took that bike. His dreaming mind can't make them truly evil, because that would mean accepting that he himself was truly evil for what he did. The legendary Pokémon that appear throughout the series deserve special attention because they reveal the spiritual dimension of Ash's coma dream. Ho-Oh appears in the very first episode, right after the lightning strike. This is significant because Ho-Oh is said to appear only to trainers who are pure of heart and destined for greatness. But Ash has been a trainer for less than a day. He hasn't proven anything. He hasn't demonstrated purity of heart or greatness. He's just a kid who stole a bike and got struck by lightning. Unless Ho-Oh isn't really there. Unless Ho-Oh is the first manifestation of Ash's dying brain trying to make sense of what's happening to it. The golden bird in the sky, radiant and beautiful, could be Ash's interpretation of the light he sees as his consciousness fades. The promise of greatness could be his mind's way of comforting itself in the face of trauma. Throughout the series, Ash encounters legendary Pokémon with increasing frequency. He meets Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. He encounters Mewtwo and helps save it from exploitation. He meets Lugia and helps prevent a catastrophic imbalance in nature. He encounters Celebi, Jirachi, Dixis, and countless others. He even meets Arceus, the Pokémon said to have created the entire universe. These encounters are impossible. Legendary Pokémon are supposed to be rare, appearing once in a generation, if at all. Yet, Ash meets them regularly, often multiple times. He doesn't just see them from a distance. He interacts with them. He befriends them. He saves them, and is saved by them in return. This makes sense only if we understand that these legendary Pokémon aren't real creatures. They're symbolic representations of Ash's spiritual journey through his coma. Each legendary represents a different aspect of his struggle. Mewtwo, the artificially created Pokémon, struggling with questions of identity and purpose, represents Ash's own confusion about who he is and why this is happening to him. Lugia, the guardian of the sea who maintains balance, represents Ash's desire for stability and peace. Celebi, the time traveler, represents Ash's wish to go back and prevent the accident. Jirachi, the wish granter, represents his desperate hope that he'll wake up. The more legendary Pokémon Ash encounters, the deeper into his coma he's falling. Each meeting represents his mind reaching for something transcendent, something that can explain or resolve his situation. But these meetings never provide lasting answers. The legendaries appear, the crisis is resolved, and then life goes on exactly as it was before. Because in a coma dream, nothing can truly change. The dreamer is trapped in an eternal present, cycling through the same patterns with the slight variations. Arceus is particularly significant. In the Pokémon mythology, Arceus is God. It created the universe and everything in it. When Ash meets Arceus, he's literally meeting his creator. And what does Arceus do? It judges Ash, finds him worthy, and allows him to continue his journey. This is Ash's subconscious seeking validation. His mind, aware on some level that he's trapped, that something is fundamentally wrong, creates a scenario where the ultimate authority figure tells him that he's good, that he deserves to be here, that his journey has meaning. It's a coping mechanism, a way of justifying the continuation of the dream when part of him knows he should wake up. Let's examine Ash's Pokémon themselves, because they reveal the deepest layer of the coma theory. Pikachu is Ash's constant companion, never leaving his side, never entering its Pokéball, always there to support and protect him. Pikachu is more than just Ash's starter Pokémon. It's his anchor, the one constant in a world of change. And this makes perfect sense when we understand what Pikachu represents. Pikachu is the lightning. It's the electrical current that struck Ash down, transformed in his mind into something friendly and loyal. The thing that hurt him has become the thing that protects him. This is a classic trauma response, taking something terrifying and recontextualizing it as something safe. Ash's mind couldn't process the reality of being struck by lightning, so it transformed that lightning into a cute, loyal companion who would never hurt him. Notice that Pikachu's electricity is portrayed as helpful throughout the series. It defeats enemies, powers machines, and saves the day. The electricity that should have killed Ash has become his greatest asset. This is his subconscious trying to find meaning in the trauma, trying to make the accident into something purposeful rather than random and cruel. The other Pokémon Ash catches and releases follow a pattern that reveals his psychological state. He catches Pokémon, trains them, forms bonds with them, and then releases them to live their own lives. Butterfree, Pidgeot, Lapras, Greninja, and many others follow this arc. Ash lets them go, always with tears, but also with acceptance, believing that he's doing what's best for them. This is Ash processing loss. In his coma, he's losing things constantly: time, consciousness, possibly even brain function as the damage from the lightning strike takes its toll. His mind transforms this loss into something noble and purposeful. He's not losing these Pokémon because his brain is deteriorating. He's releasing them because it's the right thing to do, because they deserve to be free, because love means letting go. Each release is practice for the ultimate release, the moment when Ash will have to let go of everything and either wake up or pass on. His subconscious is preparing him, teaching him that loss can be beautiful, that saying goodbye doesn't have to be tragic. It's heartbreaking when you understand what's really happening. The gym battles and league competitions that structure Ash's journey are also deeply symbolic. Each gym leader represents a different challenge, a different obstacle that Ash must overcome. But notice that these challenges are never truly difficult. Ash loses occasionally, but he always comes back and wins on the second or third attempt. The gym leaders are tough but fair, and they always recognize Ash's potential, even when he loses. This is because the gym leaders aren't real opponents. They're manifestations of Ash's own self-doubt. Each gym represents a different fear or insecurity that Ash must confront and overcome. The Rock-type gym represents his fear of being too weak. The Water-type gym represents his fear of being overwhelmed. The Electric-type gym represents his fear of the lightning itself, the trauma he's trying to process. When Ash defeats a gym leader, he's not really winning a battle. He's overcoming a psychological obstacle. He's proving to himself that he's strong enough, brave enough, worthy enough to continue. The badges he collects aren't real achievements. They're symbols of personal growth, markers of his progress through his own psyche. The Pokémon League competitions are the ultimate test, the moment when Ash should finally achieve his dream of becoming a Pokemon master, but he never does. He gets close, sometimes heartbreakingly close, but he always falls short. And this is the cruelest aspect of the Coma dream. Ash's subconscious knows that becoming a Pokemon master would mean the journey is over. It would mean waking up, confronting reality, accepting what happened to him. So the dream sabotages him at the crucial moment. It creates unbeatable opponents like Tobias with his legendary Pokemon. It introduces random factors that lead to defeat. It ensures that Ash will always have a reason to continue, always have another goal to pursue, always have another region to explore. This is the tragedy at the heart of the theory. Ash is trapped in a cycle of his own making. His desire to continue the adventure, to avoid waking up and facing the truth, manifests as obstacles that prevent him from achieving his ultimate goal. He's simultaneously the hero and the villain of his own story, fighting against himself without realizing it. The different regions Ash visits can be understood as different levels of consciousness or different stages of his coma. Kanto, where everything begins, is the shallowest level, closest to waking. The world is relatively normal, the stakes are relatively low, and Ash is still processing the immediate trauma of the accident. As he moves to Johto, then Hoenn, then Sinnoh, he's sinking deeper into unconsciousness. The world becomes more fantastical, the legendary Pokémon more prevalent, the stakes more cosmic. By the time he reaches Alola, he's so deep in the coma that the very structure of his journey changes. There are no gym battles in Alola. Instead, there are trials and island challenges, a completely different framework. This represents his mind trying new patterns, new ways of processing the trauma as the old patterns become insufficient. Galar, the most recent region, introduces the concept of Dynamaxing, where Pokémon become gigantic and godlike for brief periods. This is Ash's subconscious grappling with the enormity of his situation. Everything has become larger than life, too big to process normally, so his mind creates a mechanism where the impossible becomes temporarily possible before returning to normal. Each region is also a retreat from reality. Kanto is based on a real place, the Kanto region of Japan. But as the series progresses, the regions become more fantastical, less tied to real geography. This is Ash's mind moving further from the real world, creating increasingly elaborate fantasies to avoid confronting the truth. The rivals Ash faces throughout his journey are particularly revealing. Gary Oak, his first and most significant rival, is someone Ash knew before the accident. Gary is real, or at least based on someone real. He represents Ash's pre-coma life, his actual relationships and competitions. Gary is arrogant and dismissive at first, which might reflect how Ash actually felt about this person, or how he feared this person felt about him. But as the series progresses, Gary softens. He becomes more respectful, more friendly, eventually becoming one of Ash's supporters rather than his rival. This is Ash's mind healing, letting go of old resentments and insecurities. The real Gary, if he exists, might be visiting Ash in the hospital, talking to him, expressing regret for any past conflicts. These visits filter into the dream as Gary's character development. The later rivals, Paul, Trip, Elaine, and others, are increasingly one-dimensional. They exist solely to challenge Ash, and then either be defeated or reconciled with. They don't have the depth of Gary because they're not based on real people. They're constructs created by Ash's subconscious to provide conflict and motivation. They're shadows given just enough personality to serve their narrative purpose before fading away. Ash's battle style is also worth examining. He's not a strategic genius. He doesn't carefully plan his moves or exploit type advantages with precision. Instead, he relies on bonds with his Pokémon, on trust and friendship, and believing in each other. His victories come from emotional connections rather than tactical superiority. This is because Ash's Coma dream isn't really about Pokémon battles. It's about relationships. It's about connection and trust and love. The battles are just the framework his mind uses to explore these themes. When Pikachu defeats a much stronger opponent because of its bond with Ash, what's really happening is Ash's subconscious affirming that love and connection are more powerful than strength or strategy. This is a child's understanding of the world, which makes sense because Ash is a child. His moral framework, his understanding of how relationships work, his belief that friendship can overcome any obstacle. These are all the beliefs of a 10-year-old. And they remain the beliefs of a 10-year-old throughout the series, because Ash's mental and emotional development stopped the moment the lightning struck. The Team Rocket motto deserves special attention. In nearly every episode, Jesse and James recite their motto, a long theatrical speech about protecting the world from devastation, uniting people within their nation, and so on. It's campy and ridiculous, and it never changes. They say the same words in the same order with the same dramatic gestures, hundreds of times throughout the series. This repetition is significant. In a coma, the brain often loops, repeating the same thoughts and patterns endlessly. The Team Rocket motto is one of these loops, a verbal pattern that Ash's mind has latched onto and can't let go of. It might be based on something he heard before the accident, a TV show, or a conversation that his damaged brain keeps replaying. The motto's content is also revealing. It talks about protecting the world from devastation, which is what Ash is trying to do in his dream. It talks about uniting people, which is what Ash does with his companions. It talks about truth and love, which are the core themes of Ash's journey. Team Rocket's motto is actually Ash's mission statement, spoken by his manifestations of guilt as a constant reminder of what he's trying to achieve. The fact that Team Rocket blasts off after every defeat, sent flying through the air by an explosion, is a direct parallel to Ash's own experience. He was sent flying by the lightning strike, and now his guilt manifestations are sent flying over and over again. It's a trauma loop, his mind replaying the moment of the accident in a safe, comedic context. Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny appear in every town Ash visits, and they all look identical. The show explains this by saying they're all cousins, part of large families that have dedicated themselves to Pokémon care and law enforcement. But this explanation is absurd. The Nurse Joys and Officer Jennies don't just look similar. They're identical down to their hairstyles and mannerisms. In the context of the Coma theory, this makes perfect sense. Nurse Joy represents the nurses who care for Ash in the hospital. Officer Jenny represents the police officers who might have been involved in the accident, taking statements or investigating what happened. Ash's mind, unable to distinguish between different nurses and officers, creates a single template for each and replicates it across his dream world. Every town has a Nurse Joy because every day nurses check on Ash. Every town has an Officer Jenny because the presence of authority, of rules and safety is a constant in his hospital environment. These figures are comforting to him, so his mind ensures they're always available, always ready to help, always exactly the same. The Pokémon centers where Ash stays are also significant. They're free, always available, and provide complete healing for any injury. This is a child's fantasy of health care, but it's also a reflection of Ash's actual situation. He's in a hospital receiving constant care, and he doesn't have to worry about payment or availability. The Pokémon centers in his dream are idealized versions of the hospital where his body lies. The healing machines in the Pokémon centers, which restore Pokémon to perfect health in seconds, represent the medical equipment keeping Ash alive. The ventilators, the IV drips, the monitors, all of this equipment is transformed in his mind into a friendly machine that makes everything better. It's a comforting fantasy, a way of understanding the medical intervention he's receiving without having to confront the reality of his condition. Ash's relationship with his Pokémon is the emotional core of the series, and it reveals the deepest truth about his coma dream. He loves his Pokémon unconditionally. He would do anything for them. He puts their well-being above his own, repeatedly risking his life to protect them. And they love him in return, fighting for him, trusting him, never abandoning him. This is what Ash needs most: unconditional love, unwavering loyalty, the certainty that he matters, that he's valued, that his existence has meaning. In the real world, lying in a hospital bed, unable to move or communicate, Ash might fear that he's a burden. He might worry that people will give up on him, that he'll be forgotten or abandoned. So his mind creates a world where that can never happen. His Pokémon will never leave him by choice. They'll never stop believing in him. They'll never think he's not worth the effort. They're the perfect companions, the perfect friends, the perfect family. They're everything he needs them to be because he created them to be exactly that. When Ash cries over his Pokémon, when he tells them he loves them, when he thanks them for being with him, he's really talking to the people in the real world who are caring for him. His mother, sitting by his bedside. The nurses who tend to him. The doctors who fight to keep him alive. His friends who visit and talk to him even though he can't respond. He can't thank them directly, so he thanks his Pokémon and hopes that somehow the message gets through. The movies that punctuate the series are particularly intense and emotionally charged. In these movies, the stakes are higher, the threats more severe, and Ash often faces death or sacrifice. In the first movie, he's turned to stone and only revived by the tears of his Pokémon. In other movies, he nearly drowns, nearly falls from great heights, nearly gets erased from existence. These movies represent crisis points in Ash's real condition. Moments when his vital signs drop, when the doctors rush in, when his mother is told to prepare for the worst. In these moments, Ash's coma dream becomes a nightmare. The safe, comforting adventure turns dark and threatening. He faces actual death, not just defeat. But he always survives. The Pokémon cry. Their tears revive him, and he wakes up. Or he's saved at the last moment by a legendary Pokémon. Or the power of friendship creates a miracle. He survives because in the real world, the doctors succeed. They stabilize him. They pull him back from the brink. And his dream adjusts, transforming the medical intervention into a magical salvation. The tears of the Pokémon that revive Ash in the first movie are particularly significant. Tears have healing power in his dream because tears are what he senses in the real world. His mother crying beside his bed. His friends crying when they visit. The grief and love of the people around him penetrates his unconsciousness and becomes, in his dream, the force that saves him. Ash's victories in the Pokémon League competitions, even when he loses, are always portrayed as moral victories. He fought well. He gave it his all. He has nothing to be ashamed of. The other trainers respect him. The audience cheers for him. He might not have won the tournament, but he won something more important, the respect and admiration of everyone watching. This is Ash's mind comforting itself. In the real world, he's not winning anything. He's not achieving his dreams. He's lying in a bed, motionless, his life on hold. But his subconscious can't accept this. It needs to believe that he's accomplishing something, that his struggle has meaning. So it creates scenarios where losing is actually winning, where falling short is actually success, where the journey matters more than the destination. This is a beautiful lie, and it's the lie that keeps Ash trapped. If he could accept that sometimes losing is just losing, that sometimes there is no deeper meaning, he might be able to let go of the dream. But he can't. He needs to believe that everything happens for a reason, that every setback is a lesson, that he's growing and improving even when the evidence suggests otherwise. The Pokémon themselves, the creatures that populate Ash's world, are worth examining as a collective. They're all friendly, or at least capable of becoming friendly. Even the most aggressive Pokémon can be befriended with patience and understanding. There are no truly evil Pokémon, only misunderstood ones or ones being controlled by evil humans. This reflects a child's moral framework. Ash wants to believe that nothing is inherently bad, that everything can be redeemed, that friendship and understanding can solve any problem. It's an innocent worldview, and it's the worldview of someone whose moral development stopped at age 10. In the real world, things are more complicated. Some creatures are dangerous and can't be befriended. Some problems can't be solved with kindness. But Ash's dream world doesn't include these harsh truths. It's a simplified, idealized version of reality where good always triumphs and friendship conquers all. The evolution of Pokémon is also symbolically significant. Pokémon grow and change, becoming stronger and often more mature in appearance. This is the growth that Ash himself can't experience. His body is frozen at age 10, but his Pokémon can evolve, can transform, can become something new. They're living out the development that he's been denied. When Ash's Pokémon evolve, it's always portrayed as a positive thing, a natural progression. But notice that Ash's closest Pokémon, Pikachu, never evolves. The one Pokémon that represents the trauma itself, the lightning that struck him down, remains unchanged. This is because Ash can't move past the trauma. He can't evolve beyond it. He's stuck at the moment of impact forever. The regions Ash visits are increasingly diverse in their ecosystems and cultures. Kanto is temperate and familiar. Johto is similar, but with more traditional elements. Hoenn is tropical. Sinnoh is mountainous and cold. Unova is urban and modern. Kalos is elegant and artistic. Alola is a paradise of islands. Galar is industrial and wild. This diversity represents Ash's mind exploring different aspects of itself. Each region is a different mood, a different emotional state, a different way of processing the trauma. The tropical paradise of Alola might represent a period where Ash's condition stabilized and his dreams became more peaceful. The harsh, cold mountains of Sinnoh might represent a difficult period where his health declined. The fact that Ash always moves on to a new region, never staying in one place, reflects the restless nature of the comatose mind. It can't settle. It can't find peace. It's always searching for something, always moving, always hoping that the next place will be the one where everything makes sense. But it never is. Each region brings new adventures and new friends, but the fundamental situation never changes. Ash is still 10. He's still chasing the same dream. He's still trapped in the same cycle. The scenery changes, but the story remains the same. The concept of mega evolution, introduced in the Kalos region, is particularly revealing. Mega evolution allows certain Pokémon to temporarily transform into more powerful forms, but only if they have a strong bond with their trainer. The transformation is intense, almost painful looking, and it can only be sustained for a short time before the Pokémon reverts to its normal form. This represents Ash's moments of partial consciousness, times when he's close to waking up, when his brain activity increases, when the doctors see signs of awareness. In these moments, everything becomes more intense, more vivid, more powerful. But he can't sustain it. He falls back into deep unconsciousness, and the dream continues. The bond required for mega evolution is the bond between Ash's conscious and unconscious mind. When they're in sync, when they're working together, he can achieve moments of greater awareness. But these moments are exhausting, and his mind can't maintain them. So he retreats back into the comfortable patterns of the dream. Z moves in Alola follow a similar pattern. They're powerful attacks that require a special bond and a specific pose or dance. They can only be used once per battle, and they require significant energy. Again, this represents Ash's moments of heightened awareness, his brain's attempts to break through the coma. But these attempts are limited and exhausting, and they always end with a return to the status quo. Dynamaxing in Galar, where Pokémon become gigantic, is the most extreme version of this pattern. The Pokémon don't just become more powerful, they become enormous, towering over everything, fundamentally changing the nature of the battle. This might represent a crisis point in Ash's condition, a moment when everything is amplified and intense, when the line between life and death becomes very thin. But like Mega Evolution and Z moves, Dynamaxing is temporary. The Pokémon return to normal size after a few turns. Ash returns to his normal dream state after the crisis passes. The pattern continues. Ash's interactions with adults are also revealing. Professor Oak, his mother, the gym leaders, the various professors he meets in different regions, all of these adults are supportive and encouraging. They believe in Ash. They give him advice, but never talk down to him. They treat him as capable and worthy of respect. This is how a child wants to be treated by adults. With respect, with trust, with the assumption of competence. In the real world, adults often underestimate children, dismiss their opinions, or treat them as less than fully human. But in Ash's dream, adults are perfect mentors and supporters. They're what he wishes adults would be. The absence of truly bad adults is also significant. There are villains like Giovanni, the leader of Team Rocket, but they're distant and abstract. Ash rarely interacts with them directly. The adults he actually encounters are almost universally kind and helpful. This is because Ash's mind can't process the idea of adults as threats. Adults are supposed to protect children, to keep them safe. The adults in his dream fulfill this role perfectly. The few times Ash encounters genuinely threatening adults, like the Ancient King in the Lucario movie, or the villain in the Darkrai movie, these encounters are framed as exceptional. These aren't normal adults. They're corrupted or misguided or from a different time. The implication is that modern adults, the adults in Ash's actual life, are good and trustworthy. This might reflect the reality of Ash's situation. The adults around him, his doctors and nurses and family, are doing everything they can to help him. They're not threats. They're his protectors. His dream reflects this, creating a world where adults can be trusted and relied upon. Ash's physical resilience is superhuman. He's been electrocuted, frozen, burned, crushed, thrown from great heights, and exposed to countless other dangers that should have killed or seriously injured him. But he always recovers, usually within the same episode. He might be tired or sore, but he's never truly hurt. This is because he's already as hurt as he can be. In the real world, Ash is in a coma, possibly with severe injuries from the lightning strike. His dream self can't be more injured than his real self, so his mind makes him invulnerable. He can face any danger without real consequence because the worst has already happened. This invulnerability also serves a psychological purpose. It allows Ash to be brave, to take risks, to protect his Pokémon and friends without fear. If he could be truly hurt in his dream, he might become paralyzed by fear, unable to act. The invulnerability frees him to be the hero he wants to be. Pikachu's refusal to enter its Pokeball is one of the most consistent elements of the series. From the very beginning, Pikachu stays outside, riding on Ash's shoulder or walking beside him. This is unusual. Most trainers keep their Pokémon and Pokéballs when not in battle. But Pikachu refuses, and Ash accepts this. The Pokeball represents containment, separation, isolation. Pikachu staying outside represents Ash's refusal to be contained by his coma. He won't accept being trapped, being separated from the world, being isolated in unconsciousness. Pikachu's freedom is Ash's freedom, or at least his dream of freedom. It's also significant that Pikachu, the representation of the lightning that hurt Ash, is the one Pokémon that won't be contained. The trauma can't be locked away or hidden. It's always present, always visible, always part of Ash's journey. He has to carry it with him, acknowledge it, integrate it into his life. He can't pretend it didn't happen. The various evil teams Ash faces, Team Rocket, Team Magma, Team Aqua, Team Galactic, Team Plasma, Team Flare, Team Skull, Team Yell, each represents a different fear or anxiety. Team Rocket wants to steal and exploit Pokémon, representing Ash's fear of losing what he loves. Team Galactic wants to destroy and recreate the universe, representing Ash's fear that his world is fundamentally broken and needs to be remade. These teams are always defeated, their plans always foiled, because Ash's mind needs to believe that threats can be overcome. The world might be dangerous, but it's not hopeless. Evil exists, but it can be fought and beaten. This is a comforting narrative, and it's one that Ash's subconscious clings to. The fact that these teams are increasingly ambitious in their goals, from simple theft to universal destruction, reflects the escalating nature of Ash's fears as his coma deepens. Early in the coma, his fears are simple and concrete. Later, they become abstract and existential. He's not just afraid of losing his Pokémon, he's afraid that reality itself is unstable, that everything could disappear at any moment. Ash's dreams within the dream are also significant. There are episodes where Ash falls asleep and has dreams, and these dreams are often strange and surreal, more so than his normal adventures. These are dreams within the coma dream, his subconscious going even deeper, exploring layers of meaning that can't be expressed in the normal narrative. In these dreams within dreams, the rules are even more fluid. Pokémon might talk in human language. Impossible things happen without explanation. The tone is often more emotional, more raw. These are moments when Ash's deepest feelings break through the comfortable structure of his adventure and demand to be acknowledged. When Ash wakes from these dreams within dreams, he often can't quite remember them, or he dismisses them as just dreams. This is his mind protecting itself, maintaining the boundary between the comfortable surface dream and the deeper, more painful truths underneath. The Pokémon Ash releases, the ones he lets go to live their own lives, are particularly heartbreaking when viewed through the lens of the coma theory. Butterfree, his first major release, flies away to mate and start a family. Ash cries but accepts that this is what Butterfree needs. Butterfree might represent Ash's childhood innocence, the part of him that believed in simple happiness and straightforward futures. He has to let it go because he can't maintain that innocence anymore. The trauma has changed him, and his mind acknowledges this by releasing Butterfree to a life Ash himself can never have. Pidgeot is released to protect a flock of Pidgey and Pidgeotto from a Spearow attack. Remember, Spearow are the Pokémon that attacked Ash in the first episode, leading to the lightning strike. Pidgeot staying behind to fight Spearow is Ash's mind trying to rewrite the trauma, to create a scenario where the Spearow are defeated and can't hurt anyone else. Greninja, one of Ash's most powerful Pokémon, is released to protect the Kalos region from a lingering threat. Greninja had achieved a special bond with Ash, a transformation called Ash Greninja, where they synchronized perfectly. Releasing Greninja is Ash letting go of the hope that he can maintain perfect synchronization with anything, even his own mind. The bond was beautiful, but it couldn't last. Each release is a small death, a letting go of something precious. Ash is practicing for the ultimate letting go, the moment when he'll have to release everything and either wake up or pass on. His mind is teaching him, gently and repeatedly, that love sometimes means letting go, that holding on too tightly causes pain. The Pokémon League victories Ash does achieve are telling. In Alola, he finally wins a league championship. After decades of trying, after countless defeats, he finally achieves the goal he's been chasing. And what happens? He doesn't become a Pokémon master. The dream doesn't end. Instead, he moves on to a new region, Galar, and starts the cycle again. This victory in Alola might represent a moment of hope in the real world. Maybe Ash's condition improved. Maybe the doctors were optimistic. Maybe his family believed he was close to waking up. This hope filtered into the dream as a league victory, a moment of triumph and celebration. But he didn't wake up. The improvement was temporary, or the hope was premature. So the dream continues, and Ash moves on to Galar, still chasing the ultimate goal that always remains just out of reach. The structure of the Pokémon world itself is worth examining. It's a world where children leave home at age 10 to go on dangerous journeys with powerful creatures. Parents allow this. Society encourages this. It's completely normalized. This makes no sense in reality. No responsible parent would send a 10-year-old into the wilderness with animals that can breathe fire and shoot lightning. But in Ash's dream, it makes perfect sense because it's what he wants. He wants to be independent, to be trusted, to be treated as capable. His dream world is structured to make this possible. The Pokémon world is also remarkably safe despite the presence of dangerous creatures. People are rarely seriously hurt. Pokémon battles, which should be brutal and bloody, are portrayed as sport. Even wild Pokémon, while they might attack, rarely cause lasting harm. It's a sanitized version of danger, exciting enough to be interesting, but safe enough not to be truly threatening. This is a child's fantasy of adventure, all the excitement of danger without the actual consequences. Ash can face threats and overcome them without ever being in real peril. His mind has created a world where he can be brave without having to confront genuine fear. The technology in the Pokémon world is also revealing. Pokeballs can convert living creatures into energy and store them indefinitely. Pokémon centers can heal any injury instantly. Communication devices work perfectly. Even in remote areas, computers can store and transfer Pokémon across vast distances. This technology is magical, not scientific. It works because Ash needs it to work, not because it follows any logical principles. It's wish fulfillment, creating solutions to problems without having to understand how those solutions actually function. This reflects Ash's limited understanding of technology. He's 10 years old. He doesn't know how computers or medicine or energy conversion actually work. So his dream world includes technology that does what he needs it to do without worrying about the details. It's Clark's law in reverse. Any sufficiently misunderstood technology is indistinguishable from magic. The absence of death in the Pokémon world is one of its most unrealistic elements. Pokémon faint in battle, but they don't die. They're always revived, always healed, always ready to fight again, even in the most desperate situations, even when Pokémon are pushed to their absolute limits. They survive. This is because Ash can't process death. He's possibly dying himself, or at least in a state that resembles death. His mind can't engage with the concept directly, so it creates a world where death doesn't exist. Pokémon faint, which is like death, but they always wake up, which is what Ash hopes will happen to him. The few times death is implied in the series, it's always in the past or at a distance. Ancient Pokémon that died long ago, legends of Pokémon that sacrificed themselves. But never in the present, never directly shown, never something Ash has to witness and process in real time. This avoidance of death is a coping mechanism. If Ash's dream included death, he'd have to confront his own mortality. He'd have to acknowledge that he might not wake up, that this coma might be permanent, that his story might end without resolution. His subconscious protects him from this knowledge by creating a world where death is impossible. Ash's relationship with his father is conspicuously absent. His father is mentioned occasionally, but never appears. He's always away on his own Pokémon journey, always absent, always a distant figure who exists more as a concept than a person. This absence is significant. In the real world, Ash's father might be present at the hospital, sitting beside his son, grieving and hoping, but Ash can't incorporate him into the dream because he doesn't have a strong enough memory or relationship with him to create a detailed representation. Or perhaps his father isn't present. Perhaps he left the family or was never involved or died before Ash's journey began. The absence in the dream reflects an absence in reality, a hole in Ash's life that he's never been able to fill. The father's absence also allows Ash's mother to be the sole parental figure, the one constant source of unconditional love and support. Ash doesn't have to navigate complex family dynamics or divided loyalties. His mother is everything he needs, and that's enough. The Pokemon Ash chooses to catch and train often reflect his emotional state. In Kanto, he catches a variety of Pokemon, experimenting and exploring. In Johto, his team is more focused, more purposeful. In later regions, he often catches Pokemon that are struggling or in need of help, Pokemon that he can save and nurture. This evolution in his catching patterns reflects his growing understanding of his own situation. Early in the coma, he's still exploring, still trying to understand what's happening. Later, he's more focused on healing and helping, perhaps reflecting the care he's receiving in the real world or his own desire to be healed. The Pokemon that stay with him long term, like Pikachu, are the ones that represent core aspects of his psyche. The ones he releases or leaves behind are aspects he's letting go of, parts of himself he's accepting he can't keep. His team at any given time is a snapshot of his psychological state, a roster of the parts of himself he's currently working with. Ash's battles are often won through unconventional strategies. He doesn't follow the standard type advantages or recommended tactics. Instead, he improvises, using the environment, exploiting unexpected opportunities, or simply relying on his Pokemon's determination to overcome superior opponents. This reflects a child's understanding of problem solving. Ash doesn't have the knowledge or experience to use sophisticated strategies, so he relies on creativity and heart. His victories are emotional rather than tactical, which makes sense for a dream where feelings matter more than facts. It also reflects Ash's real situation. He can't solve his problem through conventional means. There's no strategy for waking from a coma, no tactical approach to healing brain damage. All he can do is hold on, keep fighting, and hope that somehow, through determination and love, he'll find a way through. The recurring theme of friendship throughout the series is the emotional core of Ash's coma dream. Every episode reinforces the message that friendship is the most important thing, that bonds between people and Pokemon are what give life meaning, that love and trust can overcome any obstacle. This is what Ash needs to believe, lying in a hospital bed, unable to communicate, possibly aware on some level of his isolation. He needs to believe that the connections he's formed matter, that his mother's love reaches him, that his friends haven't forgotten him, that he's not alone. His dream gives him this certainty. Every friend he makes, every Pokemon he bonds with, every moment of connection and understanding reinforces the belief that he matters, that he's loved, that he's not facing this alone. It's a beautiful dream, and it's the dream that keeps him holding on. The series' refusal to end, its continuation year after year, region after region, is the final and most heartbreaking piece of evidence for the coma theory. In a normal story, there would be an ending. Ash would achieve his goal or fail definitively or grow up and move on. But none of these things happen. The story continues indefinitely, always promising resolution but never delivering it. This is because Ash can't let the story end. Ending the story means waking up or dying, and he's not ready for either. So the dream continues, finding new regions to explore, new friends to make, new challenges to face. It's an eternal present, a forever journey, a story that can never conclude because conclusion means confronting reality. And so, Ash remains 10 years old, traveling with Pikachu, making friends and saying goodbye, winning battles and losing leagues, always moving forward but never arriving. He's trapped in the most beautiful prison imaginable, a world of adventure and friendship and endless possibility, built by his own mind to protect him from a truth too painful to face. He's lying in a hospital bed, struck down by lightning on the first day of his journey, dreaming of the adventure he never got to have. Every episode is another day of unconsciousness. Every region is another year of coma. Every friend is another visitor to his bedside. Every victory is another moment when his vital signs stabilize. Every defeat is another crisis survived. The theory asks us to see the entire series not as a children's adventure, but as a tragedy. A boy who wanted nothing more than to be a Pokémon master, struck down before his journey could truly begin. Living out his dream in the only way left to him, his mind, damaged but not destroyed, creates a world where he can be the hero he always wanted to be, where he can make a difference, where he matters. And perhaps, in a way, he does matter. Perhaps the dream is real in its own way. Perhaps the love he feels for his Pokémon and the love they feel for him is as real as any love in the waking world. Perhaps the friendships he forms, even if they're constructs of his own mind, are genuine in their emotional truth. Or perhaps it's all just the firing of damaged neurons, the last desperate attempts of a dying brain to create meaning where none exists. Perhaps Ash is already gone, and what we're watching is just the echo of a child who once dreamed of adventure. We'll never know for certain. The series continues, and Ash continues with it, forever 10, forever dreaming, forever on a journey that can never end. And maybe that's okay. Maybe the dream is enough. Maybe living in a beautiful illusion is better than waking to a harsh reality. Or maybe, somewhere in a hospital room, a mother sits beside her son's bed, holding his hand, telling him about her day, hoping that somehow her voice reaches him in his dreams. Maybe she tells him about the Pokémon show she watched, about a boy named Ash who never gives up, who keeps fighting no matter what, who believes that friendship can overcome anything. And maybe, deep in his coma, Ash hears her. Maybe her voice becomes part of his dream, becomes the encouragement he needs to keep going, to keep dreaming, to keep hoping that someday, somehow, he'll wake up and begin the real journey he's been dreaming of all along. The lightning struck on a spring morning in Pallet Town. A boy fell, and in falling, he began to dream. And the dream continues, episode after episode, year after year, a testament to the power of hope and the tragedy of a journey that can never be completed. This is the story of Ash's coma. This is the hidden truth beneath the adventure. This is what we're really watching when we watch Pokémon, if we choose to see it. A beautiful, heartbreaking dream, spun by a child's mind to protect itself from a reality too painful to face. And so, the journey continues. Ash and Pikachu, walking down another road toward another town, another gym, another league, another region, always moving forward, never arriving, forever dreaming of the day when the dream will end and the real adventure can finally begin.